Did you know Variety, the children's charity, is the entertainment charity started by a group of show business people who found an abandoned baby in a theatre way back in 1928. These kind-hearted performers raised so much money to help the lost child that they began helping other children, and Variety, the children's charity, was born. Read the full story and support the entertainers charity that supports kids in need today. Visit variety.org.au. You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Richard Stubbs started his stand-up comedy career in 1983. A year later, he began his long-running radio presenter career that saw him broadcast at 3XY, TripleM, 101.1 TTFM, now KIIS FM, 774 ABC, and most recently 3AW. In between, Richard also appeared on and hosted Hey It's Saturday and performed sold-out shows at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. And then, in 2015, he decided to take his own advice and leave radio and reignite his passion for comedy. In this School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast episode, I leave the confines of this studio and meet Richard in a bustling St Kilda cafe to talk about life after radio, his hiatus from stand-up, being witness to the metaphorical birth of Australia's now booming comedy scene, and his motto of saying yes to everything. And exciting news, Richard Stubbs will be our guest comedian teacher at the School of Hard Knock Knocks stand-up comedy course in Melbourne on October 22 to 26. Learn from and perform with this living legend of comedy. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so visit www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com to secure your spot. And now here he is, Richard Stubbs. Good afternoon, Richard.
Good afternoon, Murray.
Well, this is the first for me to meet you face to face, and also a first for me to do an interview with our comedians in a coffee shop. So thank you.
It's perfect. It's the new era. This will take you through the 30s into the 40s, and you'll cross the line at 50 interviews. And you're saying, I've done coffee shops now, I'm moving into something else.
Yeah.
Scenic Railway will be next.
Yeah, will we?
Yeah, after 20 of these, go to Luna Park just for fun and get on the Scenic Railway and try to talk to comedians.
Yeah, right. Well, we are sitting next to the Scenic Railway. We are in St Kilda in this on this beautiful day in Melbourne, one of the rare spring beautiful days.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about comedy.
Why not?
With Richard Stubbs. All right, well, I grew up with you on the radio, so this is an honour to be in your presence. All right, that's as far as the ass-kissing goes. And I stumbled across a little ad in Facebook recently by CJ saying that you were going to perform at the ESPY. ESPY been closed for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the last time you did stand-up comedy in a group, but I know you did some comedy at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, which was sold out. We'll come to that in a minute. You did a fantastic job up there. I think there was about 12 or 15 comedians on the day, or
yeah, something like that.
Three batches of comedians. It was a massive turnout, and you talked a lot. How much of that material was new?
So let's see. I did about a 15-minute spot. I was trying to do something that I didn't really succeed in doing, but it was a kind of interim step for me to make it punchier. I'm very anecdotal in my style, and 10 to 15 minutes seemed very short, so I was trying to do something, and I didn't manage to do it. But there was lots of probably 50%, and 50% was brand new, and then the rest was reworked with different setups and different placement in the running order to get it to fit to what I was doing. Yeah. But I generally I go up on stage and generally create new stuff every time I'm on stage. Yeah. And I'm generally, in my head, I'm working kind of 3 sentences ahead. So my mouth's saying something, and there's a mini-me running around desperately in a filing cabinet, searching and pulling out different sentences and changing the order of things and reworking. So, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because a lot of people who listen to this podcast may know you from radio.
Sure.
And so to hear that you do stand-up comedy might
confuse them.
And yeah, it predates the radio. I started stand-up comedy in 83 and my first radio gig was 84 because of stand-up. I'd been spotted and tried out for a show on 3XY and started there. And so I've continued to do stand-up all the way through corporate work, and I haven't done, or I hadn't done clubs and bars and shitty stand-up venues for some time, just because I was raising kids and I was working at the ABC and doing that stuff and doing corporate work. And then in 2015 I quit the ABC and after 11 years and started just going back on the stand-up club circuit again and doing gigs for 20 people, doing gigs for 1,000 people, doing gigs in Hobart or on the Gold Coast for a week, living in a 20-something's house as the comedian.
Yeah.
Jeez. Just doing anything really, just back to my old ways, which were basically say yes to everything. And got match fit, basically, doing lots and lots of gigs, all sorts of gigs. I don't care. We can talk a little bit about the motivation later if you like. But and that got me ready for the comedy festival. And as you say, I did the comedy festival and that was good. And then since then, just kept on doing gigs. I do all sorts, from charity events to corporates to, gigs at the ESPY.
There you go. Well, that's fantastic. You just alluded to some inspiration. Apparently you gave a speech at a Year 12 event.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about being bold.
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, a little bit. I did a valedictory for the Year 12s, and I was talking to them about what I'd done so far in my life and what they should be doing. And I gave them the shocking news that their parents have lied to them, that they're actually not special. And so what are they going to do with that? And I talked to them about never phoning it in and making sure that what they do they love, because you'll beat the person next to you.
Yeah.
And I talked a bit about that, and I was thinking, I drove away from that speech and thought, I wonder who I was talking to, and I realised I was talking to me. It was kind of late in 2015, and 2015 was a kind of tumultuous year for me. I'd achieved a goal by broadcasting from the anniversary of Gallipoli. I really wanted to be at the ABC for that, and I wanted to be the person who got sent across to Turkey to do that. I did it the year before as a kind of a warm-up, and then we did the centenary one, a team of 4 of us, and we broadcast 4 or 5 programs from Turkey with all that's involved in doing that, putting it together on the run and off laptops and creating programming and then going live across Australia and all that kind of stuff. And so that was a really big thing for me. That was a broadcasting goal. And also in 2015 my mum passed. I'd been progressively caring for her more and more, and so that had ended and I was sad, and I was without a kind of a focus in my work, because it was always, do the job, see mum in the morning, go and do the radio, look after the kids, see mum, deal with her medical team, because I kept mum at her home and just brought the team into her.
Yeah.
And I suddenly realised, talking to the kids, that my life had changed, that things that were there, like raising my kids, weren't there. The kids were now in their 20s. Looking after mum, which had sort of transitioned in after the kids, wasn't there now. And I thought, man, I'm going to start phoning this shit in. And the worst thing for me is to be creative without passion. It's anathema, and I quit. I blame the school kids.
Yeah, but it sounds like your mini-me was, again, 3 steps ahead or 3 sentences ahead, and you were speaking off the script, and then your little mini-me took over. And
Yeah. I think that happens.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's inspiring. And then you got, as you said, you got back into comedy, and we saw, and you sold out the beginning of this year, 2017, at the school, at the
Comedy Festival?
Comedy Festival.
Yeah.
You had
so it was
sold
great
out shows,
because, it had sold out shows, added an extra one, sold that out too. Which is great, because I hadn't been on the stand-up circuit my last comedy festival show was 2003. So then, I don't know that there's many who have a 14-year gap till their next one, but anyway, it seemed reasonable. And so I wasn't really sure if anyone had come or how it would be received or, all those things. So it was fantastic. We put a lot of work into the marketing of it and making sure that people who perhaps weren't out seeing comedy or whatever knew about it, so they'd go, oh, I'll go to that, that'll be good. And it worked, it was great.
Yeah. The photo has you skydiving. Was that all photoshopped, or did you hang from some kind of...
I hung from somewhere. I thought that was completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
I'm scared of heights.
Yeah.
I don't like it. My manager said, no, it'll be fine. And she contacted Circus Oz, who I know all the guys from Circus Oz, and they went, yeah, come down. And they hooked me up to harness and suspended me like 30 metres in the air to get the shot. And I'm going, there's really no need for this. It's, we're digital. We could do a green screen. And they go, no. And they gave me the crash helmet, and the crash helmet's got a dint in it. Like, I don't think that's safe. And, and for no reason. They had one of their weird dudes... jumping off things to help suspend me in their huge trapeze room. It was shit. So there were a number of photos, most of which I was conveying raw fear. Yeah. And that one I had a sort of sickly smile, and they went, yeah, that's the one, good. That's one. I thought the whole thing was unnecessary. I didn't like it.
There you go. Well, let's go back because, look, I believe you were a school captain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then you studied economics.
Yes.
And you worked for a number of years.
Yeah.
So you're obviously a smart guy.
No, I don't think that's the natural conclusion to those statements.
Exams.
Okay.
Okay. And then somehow you decided, no, this isn't for me. I'm like a normal job, status quo.
I know, right?
What on earth makes you think, oh, yeah,
well,
I'll try out?
You missed out one of them, so you wouldn't know about it. So... for whatever reason, obviously my upbringing, somehow, I'd be hard-pressed to find it, but the decision I went through with the ABC is not an unusual decision for Richard. Richard often sits down and goes, is this what you want, mate? Because if it's not what you want, go and find what you want and let go. And so this first happened. I didn't do well enough in Year 12 to get into the course I wanted. I got into economics, and that was fine. I started doing economics, and I really wanted to get into law. And so I worked my ass off in first year. Everyone else was out partying, and I worked my ass off because I wasn't like a gifted student. I had to work hard to get a mark. If I didn't work hard, I'd fail. It was a brutal reality. And so I worked my ass off, and I transferred across to law in my second year, and then I worked my ass off again to catch up the subjects, double loading, to get everything done, to be back on sort of track. And then by third year law, as I was finishing the economics degree, I realised a couple of things. The people I was with I didn't really enjoy. I didn't really love the law as much as I thought I was going to. Looking ahead to the subjects that were coming, they were really awful, boring subjects that I don't know that I was committed to working on. And I realised I quite enjoyed my economics degree, which wasn't accounting, it was all marketing and labour relations and those kind of subjects. And so I thought, well, I think that's it. And I quit law.
Oh.
After 3 years, after fighting my ass off to get into it, I quit.
Yeah.
Because it was the first of a lot of decisions about, mate, I don't think this is right for you, why don't you go find what is? So then, as you say, I went and worked, and I worked for a big mining firm, and I was in personnel, and then I transferred to subsidiary of CRA to AM&S and worked out a sulphide court and doing all sorts of selling zinc, which is a fun thing to do, and wasn't really fitting in there. And around that time, I needed more money. I owed my mum money for an overseas trip, and I'd always got through uni by working in bars and bottle shops. Yeah. So I got a job at the Last Laugh as a barman and waiter.
Right.
And suddenly, for the first time, I found my people. I found my tribe. And after a while, I had a tryout night by accident. There was a tryout night at the La Joke, the upstairs bar at the Last Laugh, and there wasn't anyone trying out. And the compere said, well, I'm not going to fill by my own, get the loudmouth barman up. And so I got up and mucked around, and I thought, oh, this is great. And I went back the next night as a tryout and kind of just kept going. And then I quit the office job and got a job managing a gym and doing stand-up at night. And then I got tapped on the shoulder to do radio in 84, and so I quit the gym and did radio and kept doing stand-up, and, that's how that happened.
Yeah.
Normal, right? That happens.
So 83 you start comedy, 84 you got your own radio show.
It wasn't really my own. It was the first of what is now usual, a multi-person breakfast show with a guy who's a stand-up comedian in there in the team, and you look at me going, yeah, that's normal, but it was the first one in 84. 3XY was about to be overwhelmed by FM radio, and the program manager, Gary Soprane, looked around for inspiration. How can I get a point of difference? How can I survive? And he saw the Z100 in New York, and they had the Z Morning Zoo, which had Scott Shannon and the Murph and these guys who were a stand-up comedian with a DJ and a couple of other people. And he went, man, that's what we can do. Right. So he looked around for a comedian, and I was doing shows at the Last Laugh, and I'd been doing gigs and sort of getting my name about locally, and he said, oh, this is the guy, we'll get him. And and that's what happened. So it was the first of those sort of programs.
Right,
weirdly enough, the XYZ.
There you go. Oh, amazing. And you talk about your spot in stand-up as a open micer or as a try-outer, as they call them now, or as they used to call them.
Yeah.
Brad Oakes is one such comedian who's come through, and you were MC compare on the night.
So I used to, because I developed, I'd end up MCing those gigs at La Joke and working and MCing, or do the feature spot at the end, or do that. And the first two brackets were an MC and open micers, tryouts.
Yeah, right.
Little Brad, who was full of hope and joy.
Little Brad. True. And he's full of hope. I guess he's a comical man. He said to me that he popped his cherry with you.
Yep.
His comedy cherry, and you asked him. I don't know if you recall, but you asked him how it felt to get up on stage for the first time at the tryout, and he said, "Well, it's a lot like sex, only a lot longer."
Yeah.
Because he went for 7 minutes.
And he wasn't dizzy and nauseous afterwards. So, that was a plus.
Yeah, that's right. So he has fond memories of that, or fond...
Yeah, it's funny, doing all that comedy and doing gigs just everywhere. As I said to you earlier, early days, and I think this is a key when you're starting out in anything, I just said yes to everything. So I found myself early days doing half an hour comedy in a living room at a 40th birthday in Glen Waverley. And I was 25, so no microphone, no lights, no one even drunk. And they don't know I'm coming. They just turned down the stereo and said, "Oh, who's this guy?" And I did half an hour. I did a bikies dinner dance, 1,100 bikies not far from here. I did, and did a comedy spot. I did anything. Just said yes, and then went, "Oh my God, what am I doing here?" And so did horrendous gigs and did good ones, and
Coincidentally, I recall vividly my mother's 40th, and we used to live in Glen Waverley, so I'm going to have to go through some of the photos.
Oh yeah, I might be there. You go, oh my God, there he is.
With his shirt tucked into his blue jeans.
It was the style of the times, man. Don't hassle me for that. It was cutting edge fashion.
That is right. That's right. Aside from Brad Oakes, if we go back to comedy, how many other people have you seen sort of day one that have gone on to greatness? Brad, of course, for those that don't know, hit
the D generation, who are now Working Dog.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
all those people, Rob Sitch and Tom Gleisner, and then later Jane Kennedy, and all those people I knew at their first gig, Tony Martin at their first gig, all those people. And I said, they got nothing, they got no future. Yeah, anyway, can't be right all the time, can you?
Yeah,
they've done all right.
I've always wanted to be able to bet or take shares in comedians.
I know, right?
Because you see some and you go, oh, yeah, how do I get in on the ground floor?
Ground floor, these people know what they're doing.
Definitely.
Yeah, so just about everyone around now, I pretty much saw their first gig. If they were working at the time I was working, before I sort of got busy with kids and corporate work and radio.
Yeah.
And TV, I've done TV too.
Yep. That's right. You have regular. Well, now I'm going to move on, because a lot of people who listen to this are newbies in stand-up comedy. They want to try. They want to try comedy.
Good on them.
Or they've got their wheels spinning. They're doing open mics, tryout as it used to be called, and they're just not getting the traction that they want to get.
Yep.
So this is where I kind of ask veterans like yourself for advice. What advice would you give, aside from I'm picking try everything, say yes to everything, even if it's in Glen Waverley?
Yeah.
What other advice would you give to up-and-comers to kickstart their comedy career or get the traction in their wheels?
It's really difficult because, of course, there are lots of different ways now. YouTube, obviously, is a great example of how to get stuff out for any performance and any artist to just be showcasing stuff. I think it's interesting. When I did gigs in Tasmania, all the other comics who were locals and stuff hung around to watch my spot. And when I was doing gigs on the Gold Coast, they were all off doing other things.
Right.
No big deal. Except that I think that if you're going to improve, you need to watch others a bit.
Yeah.
You need to kind of pick up things that... Because apart from you, there's no course that shows people little bits how to improve. You've got to be observant. I watch young comedians and I just look at their posture and their microphone technique and those kind of things, and they've got no idea.
Yeah.
So they're shit before they open their mouth.
Right.
And I certainly don't tell them because, Christ, the last thing I want to be is their dad. You know, it's bad enough as it is. But if someone asks me, I do. So I guess I can't tell you how to be better at and get success at career because it's so weirdly random. I can say that I don't know to you listening what your material's like or what your angle is, except I'd encourage you to be different and to be unique and to be true to what you think is funny rather than what you think the audience is funny. Yep. I can say, though, that you should work on your stagecraft.
Yep.
The single thing I see as I trek around doing gigs all over the place is young folk today, they've got no idea of stagecraft. So literally they don't know how to hold a mic, they're scared of the audience, their body language tells me that, they're too round-shouldered, they're not open, they're not looking up the back of the room, they're not smiling. Mate, you've got to be on stage enjoying yourself. If you're not enjoying yourself, why should I enjoy being with you? Like, you've got to sell it, you've got to believe in it, you've got to own it, you've got to go into a cage of lions with the confidence to say, you will all bend to my will. Yep. You will all, in the darkness, be bound. You will all follow me and stare at me, and you will not look at your phones, and you will not look anywhere but me. Yep. So you've got to command that presence, and part of that is tricking yourself to be confident, and the other part is just craft, just technique. So that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of what you provide is I thought it's great that there's a course for comedians about the technical aspects as well as just and the technical aspects of writing, but also how to be on stage without looking like a schmuck.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a long answer, but I guess my key advice to people cutting through is do everything you're doing, believe in yourself, be different, be unique, practice the technical aspects of performance. Yeah. Think about them. Yeah. Think about how to hold a mic. You know, if you're taking the mic off the stand to talk, ask yourself why you're doing that. Right. Listen to your voice. I often say to comedians, listen to your voice in terms of colour, right? So that the sound you're making is a band of colour. If you shut your eyes and you just don't hear the words, you just hear that, is it all one colour? Or are there highs and lows? Is it all shade? Yeah. So if you maintain a monotone, that's really boring. So tell me about the colour of the gig you're doing. Yeah. Is it ups and downs? Are there pauses? Are the tags on the mic and the setups off the mic so that the audience is told subconsciously, this is the joke, laugh here. Yeah. All of those little things improve you, improve the response and improve the focus on you, which allows people to judge your material appropriately. Yeah, I think that.
Oh, I'm going to enjoy also being a student in the class in October.
Well, maybe. I don't know whether you will, because here's the other thing that you're realising, and I see that look in your eyes, I see so much. A, it's that look of, Christ, I don't think you'll ever stop talking. And B, oh man, this guy thinks about everything. And like a lot of comedians, I think I'm a terrible overthinker. Yeah. I think that's why I've always gone to gym and ridden bikes and put physical into my life. I think that's the other thing I'd say to comedians, which is weird to them. You need to be doing something physical because you're too much in your head.
Yeah, right.
It's a success. It's great. It lets you think weird shit, but it can send you mad. You need to blow your body, and that stops you thinking. It doesn't matter if you're gardening or lifting weights or riding a bike. I know it sounds weird to tell scummy comedians who live by night that they should be physical, but honestly, you've got to clear your head. You'll go mad. Partners will leave you. Housemates will hate you. That's my other advice.
Well, that also is a good segue for writing comedy, because those pastimes that you just described, riding a bike, doing gardening, are places where you can find a joke, refine a gag. What about you? Where do you write gags?
Both of those things. I'm a bit unusual. I said earlier that I like to create new material every time. So when I'm doing gigs, I create material. If I don't do gigs, I sort of don't. I get vague ideas and stuff, but if I've got a gig coming up, I'll have always, no matter what it is, I'll have new material for that. And the more I'm doing, the more new I'm creating. That's just the way my mind works. I'm in the zone. I'm sort of thinking about it.
Yeah.
I look at the two apocryphal stories we've got of Archimedes and Newton. So Archimedes discovered laws about water displacement and body weight by being in the bath.
Okay.
And he went, shit, my body weight is displacing the same amount of water out. Holy crap. And he yelled eureka, slipped over, and that's why you don't yell stuff in the bath. And Newton discovered gravity because he was sitting under an apple tree and an apple hit him in the head. And he went, fuck. And then he went, oh, gravity, shit, that works. And he went, oh. So whether we believe those stories or not, for me the key element of those stories is something you just touched on, which is neither of those dudes discovered their scientific properties in a laboratory.
That's right.
Neither of them did that. They discovered things while chilling out. There's a subtle difference between chilling out and pulling cones on a couch. I think that this is why the path unlooked for, where your body is in the present, but your mind is free to wander, is a critical activity.
Right.
So gardening, cycling, walking, bricklaying, something that's repetitive and occupies your body, but your mind's free to just wander and do stuff. I think that's a creative time. The other key point to that is when you have a creative idea, note it down. Record it on your phone, put it in notes. Just the word, just the phrase, so that later on you don't go, I learnt that a long time ago. I used to think, oh, I'll remember that. And then I'd go, what was that thing? It's really funny. Make notes of it.
Yeah.
So I generally generate some notes. That might be just a word, or ducks, they walk funny. And then I'll take that up on stage and make words up.
Right.
And so for me, the creation process is doing gigs where I just say words. And then I come off and I go, that was pretty funny. And then over a series of gigs, I might repeat those ones while I do new ones. Then I'll gently distill the original ones, and the distillation gets them down to all the words that are just the funny bit we've set up, so it's neat, tidy, clean, smooth.
Yeah.
And then that's a little polished crystal, and we put that on the shelf. And that might be 5 minutes or whatever, and then we have 10 of those, and then we rearrange them in lots of ways, and we change the linkage, and we shift some words to suit the room, and then we select because we realise the room's not liking that. Quick, grab another crystal and operate that way, and so then on it goes. But the process is one of kind of drift netting and then distillation, all of which happens on stage. Try not to suck when you do it.
That's right. I can't keep up with the number of analogies going out of your mouth here.
I am the analogy king. I'm sorry about that.
Very good.
But, pictures tell stories.
They do. Yeah, look, that's fine. So of the set that I saw you do at the SB, 15 minutes, how much of that did you just riff? Or did you throw out?
Mostly at the start. All of that stuff at the start was just riffed. Back in the SB after being a live band, I made up just side stage before I walked on.
Yeah.
All of that stuff I made up. Most of it into the set. And then I had because I'm trying to keep to time, I had a sort of running order in my head of what I'd do, and I tried to sort of run with that and tried to link it. But the linkages and stuff were all made up. I knew where I was going to get to. It was like having a road map with the cities where you're travelling to marked, but none of the roads in between. If that makes sense. And then I made them up, judging on the crowd and the vibe and the themes I was creating. Yeah.
Do you have a way of remembering? Talking about Greek philosophers, the method of loci, which is one technique of remembering a pattern.
Yeah.
You maybe did at uni, studying. When you were studying back.
No, man, I read books.
Yeah,
it didn't have to be at uni.
So that's one technique that I personally love to use. So I still to this day can remember my first ever set that I performed when I was a student at another school, based on the pathway through my old house, England, Waverley. It wasn't on my mum's 40th, and to this day I still remember that order. The jokes were terrible, but I still remember which jokes I told. Do you have a way of remembering, or you just...
I kind of visualise the whole. So there's a process. I'll have a shower before the gig. The shower's critical. The white noise drowns out sound. During that process, I'm seeing the gig in my head. I've already written a kind of running order for it, so it goes to time and goes to the audience. Kind of caption headings, point form sort of thing, not a script. And then I see myself doing it, and I see all the things that could go wrong, and I think about what I'll do if those things happen and how I'll master it. And then then I'm bulletproof. It doesn't matter what's going to happen. I know nothing can stop me. And then I'll deliver myself in that state to the gig, and then I'll look at that point form thing, and I'll keep replaying in my head how I saw it flowing. So I'll keep visualising. I'm very big on visualising the gig and how it's going to go, and I keep visualising from the points. I used to study for exams, and I'd walk into them and they'd take the notes out of my hand as I'm walking in, because of course I'd done a lot of study and stuff, but somehow I always like to just be looking. So if you look at me before a gig, I can't really talk. I'm focused on what I'm thinking about. Most of my brain power is about the gig. I don't drink before it. No. Some do. Yeah, everyone's got their own method and stuff, but that's awful. I've got to be able to make words and linkages and be right up on my toes, and I need everything to go to that. I don't eat. I want to feel hungry. I don't want to be comfortable.
Right.
And so those things all come together to make me kind of on. And I'm constantly looking at my set list, and I'm constantly visualising it.
Yep.
And as I visualise it, I imagine what I'd say, and then I think to myself, actually, that's pretty funny. I should actually say that. And so I'll create it while I'm looking at it, if that makes sense. And then as I walk to the microphone, I can't remember shit about what I'm going to say. And I hope that it'll come back when I start talking.
Well, you talked about yourself in third person earlier in this interview. You talked about the Richard, or Richard does this, Richard does that. In that visualising, are you doing the same? Are you thinking of yourself as a third person?
No, I'm thinking of me.
No. From the eyes where you're on stage?
Yeah,
or are you looking at it?
I think of the gig exactly as I'd see it. So how am I feeling? What am I doing? How does it flow? How do I get from this to that? And I think, I could do it that way. I could do it this way. Oh, what happens if the sound system's terrible? What happens if the lights are terrible? What happens if they're hating this bit? What happens if some guy yells out? All those things I deal with. So I face them. Face whatever your fear is. Face your fear. Think about it. Think how you're going to master it, because it's not real. Yeah. So now's your time in the shower. Think about that. Think how you'll master it, and then you're ready. If it happens, I'm prepared for that.
Very good. And you must have a massive water bill.
I must have a massive water bill. If my gigs and shit, if there is ever, oh my God, there's no hot water, we're in big trouble. Big trouble. I'm going to have to go to a friend's house to have their shower.
Yeah. Dad's in the backyard again.
Yeah. It's cold. I can't go there.
Oh, God.
I'm not pioneering stock.
Well, that leads us on sort of to what's next in third person Richard Stubbs' life.
Well, Richard Stubbs, the career, the performer.
Yeah, what do you do? Yeah, the career. Where are we going to see you again? I believe that you're not going to be performing in the Melbourne International Comedy Festival in 2018.
I don't think so. No? I think that I'll work at the other comedy festivals. Yeah. So do gigs, Adelaide, Perth, Sydney, Brisbane. Do all those things and experience those, and plant the flag a bit further afield, and generate more corporate work out of those markets, and have more gigs to travel to come back to those markets, and I think that's going to be more fun and betterer. So I'll do that. I don't think I have anywhere next. One of the nice things about where I am right now, it's kind of interesting. If it wasn't already written, I'd be writing the book Zen and the Art of Stand-Up, because when I started out, you're wanting your gigs to lead on to something, whether it's radio or TV or whatever it is. I don't have any of that. I'm not doing gigs for that reason. I do gigs because I like doing gigs. So I don't really care if it's a 20-person gig or if it's a 1,000-seater. I honestly don't care. I view them all the same. I want to deliver a great show. I want the show to be better than the last one I did. I'm really on a journey of doing my own gigs for my own mastery, and I think that it's more analogous with surfing. I think stand-up's a lot like surfing in lots of ways, that you surf a lot, but the waves are always different, the tide's always different, the swell's different, your state of mind when you try to surf is different, and those things make for a different experience. And often rowdy crowds, I think, are like surfing. A big wave over a foot of coral. Yeah. There's a huge amount of energy. Yeah. If you fall off, you're dead. Yes. So, stay on the board. Yes. But for me, it's about that. It's about each gig is a wave. I'm going to ride it. I'm going to try to get what I want from the gig, hit my goals. And at the same time, without being too esoteric, deliver to people entertainment and make sure that's my KPI. People have to enjoy it. And for me, it has to be better than the last one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what the particular gig is. It's not about the opponent, mate. It's just about me.
Yeah, there we are. There we are. So you're not going to drop in on another comedian using the analogy of...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't care if I do the support of the headline. I don't care where I am in the running order.
Yeah.
I don't give two shits. I'm beyond having to prove myself and what I can do, and I'm really just doing stuff for me, and I work hard if I am the support act not to go over time, which I guess is the equivalent of the drop-in.
Yeah.
I burnt that audience for you. Enjoy yourself there, Maury. They're exhausted and want to go home. Anyway, you have fun.
Yeah, well, thank you. You're actually giving me praise that I may one day be a headliner.
Yeah, you'll be there.
You heard it first.
Yeah,
Richard
sure.
Stubbs.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Well, look, that's kind of coming to the end of my questions.
Cool.
And look, the people that listen to this expect 30 minutes, and we could go on a lot longer.
Oh, mate, I can crap on. I've got nothing in my life.
Well, you've got a cat, I believe. But
Yeah, I've got a cat, got dogs. Don't worry, there's a whole series of routines. I also live in a house with 12 parrots, but that's another story.
There we go. Well, for those people listening to this and would like to know more about parrots and the comedy career behind
Sure.
it, you're going to be in the School of Hard Knock Knocks October 22 to 26 course. So we're going to see you twice. We're going to see you as a drop-in, wrong terminology, but we're going to see you as a meet and greet and and do a Q&A with you.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. I hope people throw me lots of questions. I'm really excited about working with young comedians. By young, I mean new. I don't care about how old they are. Yeah. And I hope what I get to meet are exciting, terrified minds that are showing me how different they think. I want them to be, if you ask me, what do you want these people to be like? I want them to be comedically really different to me. That excites me. Yeah. I like passion. I like people coming from different angles. I'm really looking forward to seeing a whole lot of comedians and hearing how their minds work. And I hope I can help them in some way with more technical aspects of, comedy structure and microphone technique and breathing and shit like that will just help them get their unique voice out. I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And then they'll perform with you at the graduation as well. So
and I'll have already seen their routine, so I'll be able to do, 5 or 10 of their best jokes first and then let them follow.
Screw them up. Yes.
No, I'll be on last. And that'll be great too. I'll be really thrilled. I'll be able to be great to have a new crop of people who are saying, oh man, that idiot was there on the first gig I did. What was his name? Forget it now. Drive me to my gig.
That's right. Oh, mate. Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to having you back in the room.
Oh, look, thank you so much for asking me. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope people doing the course get something out of it. You can bet that I'll be doing it because I want to get something out of it, because I want to learn from and look at comedy through fresh eyes and hear what the mind of a beginner says about the stuff that I've done for a long time. I get a lot of motivation from that and a lot of learning from that. I'll be learning from them hopefully as much as they're learning from me.
Fantastic. Well, Richard Stubbs, thank you very much for your time on this beautiful day.
Thanks, Brian.
In Melbourne.